and welcome to Fever Dreams podcast from Team Fever. This is the live recording on the 4th of April 2021, episode 2 of season 2, also known as episode number 8. And today we have, as I'm Corbin78, your host, and we have our new host who wanted to be here ever since. It didn't turn out in the beginning, but now we have him finally. It's the Crin Baby. No, that's wrong. The Crin Daddy. That's wrong either. The crindash. Hello, crindash. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
And we have a special guest today, also from Team Fever, and that is the famous Chunker Spirit, also known as Spiritchunker, who just got his Twitter handle right. Hello, Spirit. Yeah. Welcome in.
Hello.
How have you guys been in the last hard days, last hard year? So, Crin, what has been up with you in the last year? I mean, it has been tough for all of us, but how have you been?
Whole year. I've been lucky enough to have a full-time job throughout the pandemic, and that's taken up a lot of my time. Personal things. I just recently finished building a new machine, more like swapping it, but God, it's pretty.
Hardware? I mean, PC machine?
Yeah.
I saw that. Yes.
I've got a 10900K with a 3090 in it now. It's ridiculous.
How did you get your hands on one?
I bought an Alienware. That's how I did it. No joke.
Okay.
And the machine was immediately thermal throttling and running at 90C all day. So I just swapped it into a new case and finished water cooling it. And it's all hardline now.
Wow.
That's awesome. So I guess VR lags or something, that will be something of the past. Yeah. Shouldn't happen in the slightest way anymore.
Unbelievable how smooth it runs. I mean,
that's great to hear.
You can definitely see engine performance issues when you're running on hardware like this.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that because what I heard, at least in the 20 series, anything above the 2080 and the 2, I don't know. Did they have a TI 2080 Ti?
Or they have a 2080 Ti.
That's what's in my old machine. Yeah.
Okay, so the 2080s, as far as I know, and the Ti variants and the Super variants, if they made one. I was AMD right up until the pandemic hit. They were saying there's some performance issues with VR with those higher end cards. Did you encounter any of that?
I don't know where those stories are coming from, but I've never been able to find any articles from any reputable sources supporting that. And I can tell you from my own experience that that's nonsense. I'm running everything at 144 hertz, 1.5x super sampling on the resolution. Like everything is turned up to the moon and I'm having zero issues. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I have no idea where aren't you on a 3070?
No, I'm on a 2070 Super.
Oh, no, that's right. That's Lifesaver that got the 3070. That's right.
I have a 3070 on my desktop as well, but a 2080 on my notebook where I'm doing the Ruth scale VR. But if I do desktop VR, I'm using the 3070. And even though I hear it a lot. Excuse me. I have a little shit voice today.
Muted?
Who's muted? What?
Excuse me.
Nobody's muted. I muted myself for coughing. Even though I hear from a lot of people that my operating system might cause issues, but it's not. Not at all. It's working very smooth mostly for me. At least VR-wise. I have barely performance issues. It's running all fine for me as well with those high performance cards.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm honestly not sure where those stories came from about high-end cards having issues with VR, but I gotta be frank, man, it's worth it. That was why I built the last machine. The old machine's a 9700K with a 2080 Ti on it, and both of them are on all-in-one water cooling. And just stepping up from a 2080 to a 2080 Ti, some of you might remember I worked out an exchange with Onion, and he mapped Hook 360 for me, and I sent him my old 2080 that I replaced with a 2080 Ti. I saw like a 20% performance boost across all categories when I went to that 2080 Ti. It was absolutely worth it. And as a VR streamer, as somebody who does mixed reality with a high res, high frame rate compositor, it's so worth it to get yourself a bigger GPU if you can. It really is. You'll use it.
Yeah, I get that.
I didn't think I'd leverage the 3090 as much as I can, but I was able to turn everything up. It's so good. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
Oh well, so yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm going to start looking for Alienwares and see how much the pricings are and maybe get myself that. No.
I was looking to set up a 2PC NDI streaming setup for more than half a year now. And the problem's been component availability, right? And I was visiting Micro Center 3 days a week, watching for shipments, getting beat out on everything. And finally, one day I saw on their website they had inventory of 2 models of Alienware machine, one with 3080s, one with 3090s. They had 4 of each.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that you can get a complete pre-built machine with those cards, but not the single card. I mean, it's like
I had similar suspicions. I see what you're driving at. And the thing is even the inventories on these are scarce. I've been watching, I still check their website every day, and I haven't seen any more machines populate in at least the Denver store. No more machines with 3000 series graphics cards since that day. It happened once. I had been watching for months. Finally decided, hey, they've got these in stock. I'll go ahead and do it. They were all gone in 24 hours. All 8 machines, and every one of them required in-store pickup. You couldn't order them online or anything. You had to drive your ass down there to buy them. And all of them were gone that day.
Okay. Yeah, but still, getting a complete machine was probably easier than getting a single card at that point. And that's strange.
Yep.
And you probably paid a fraction. You know what I mean. You paid a fraction of the price.
Yeah, less than the single card.
Yeah, the graphics card alone, if I had bought it from scalpers on eBay, I would have paid what I paid for this entire computer.
Exactly. And that's it doesn't make sense.
Strange times. Very, very strange times. Yeah, right on.
Man.
But Spirit, how have you been? I mean, the last year, I mean, it has been hard for all of us. I'm lucky in kind of the same situation as Crin is. So I have a day job where I can go to. It's not that far, and for me, more or less, nothing changed. But how has it been for you?
It's been fine. Unfortunately, I don't have a full-time job. Streaming is my full-time job. And, but it's been fine no matter what. I still have fun. I'm able to prototype and make random things. So that's what I do as it is. And that's actually what I went to school for. So it doesn't bug me.
And that's something we are going to talk about today. What are those prototype things you are doing? But let's talk about some other things. Especially about us. So, what have you been playing recently? Because, I mean, there are new games, there are old games that have updates and stuff. So, Crin, what have you been playing lately?
My favorite VR game right now is Crazy Kung Fu.
Crazy?
And it's nuts.
Did Freak play that as well, where you have these?
That's the one. I gifted him a copy of it because I knew he'd love it. Easily the most frustrating initial 3 hours I've spent with a game in VR because the learning curve is just unbelievable. But definitely in my regular rotation now. And then Pancake, like everybody else, I'm playing Outriders. I'm
not playing that yet, so not really everybody. But
it's basically Destiny, but made by Square Enix and more gory. Definitely more adult themed for sure.
I heard that somebody compared it a little bit to Gears of War with the cover mechanics. I like Gears of War a lot.
It's okay. So the most accurate game to compare it to, think of Division. If you played Tom Clancy's The Division, the game flow is very much like that. Very much like that. So you're moving from cover to cover, clearing large squads. You've got big elite enemies that pop up every once in a while.
I love that.
And it's a looter shooter. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, looter shooters are modern. That's even Everspace 2 is becoming a looter shooter, and that's a space shooter. Oh well,
Right.
But let's get back to the Kung Fu game because I just saw a little bit of that. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Wax off. So basically, the gist of it is no joke, man. So think one of those wooden kung fu training dummies, right? That you always see in the films with people practicing push hand against them, except it moves. It starts off with one ring on it, and it'll either have these bats that swing at you that you have to block, or there's a large pad that you have to punch, or there are these tiny little pads that you have to try and punch as many times as you can as they go by. And that's it adds more rings as the difficulty increases. The final level of training, you've got 5 rings that 3 of them can be rotating either way at any given time. Plus the dummy is moving in a U shape around you. And then once you get out of training, the dummy starts moving free around the play area, and it can actually aggressively push you, and you can push back to get it to move. It's all about footwork. If the graphics were better, I feel like this game would be huge right now. But the graphics are definitely 1990s brown FPS.
Yeah, and just from my cursory glance at it on the Steam store, it looks definitely like they went with that motif to make you feel almost if you were as in a kung fu film. And it looks
kind
fitting.
of. Yeah, kind of. Some of the scenes definitely pull that off.
I mean, the only thing that's probably missing there is haptics feedback, but because normally those dummies are there to train your bones to make them more hard and their structure more defined and stuff. But that's of course totally missing in VR. So how does that feel? Because you still have to do the movements, but you are missing the impact.
It's still a video game at heart, right? So you don't have to focus on things like form. But at the same time, if you focus on things like form, you'll definitely feel the benefit from it. You're definitely fighting the dummy. It's not stamina training in that regard, in the way you're thinking, where it strengthens the skin and the bones and everything, calluses and all of that. But it's still a great platform for. I mean, it punishes you for not utilizing footwork, which fascinates me.
Okay, sounds
it doesn't require foot tracking to do it. It's just based on your position and where you're striking from. It's like, oh, well, this guy's being a slacker, you know?
That sounds really good.
It's interesting.
How about you, Spirit? What have you been playing?
Yeah. What are you playing?
I've been mainly just playing Synth Riders and Beat Saber, but I've been slowly evolving into Ragnarok. And with the index controllers that I got, which I was able to revive one, the other one, a little nervous about, because I was looking at the FCC filings for the index controllers, where the location is for the vibration motor is deeper inside of the actual handle than I expected. So I have to make a judgment call. Do I want to fully disassemble this thing to get in there to repair it? Or do I just leave it because it tracks, it runs, everything's fine, just doesn't vibrate? But
it's hard. It's hard, isn't it? When I was using the potato tracker, when I had my first index RMA going, I had to deal with the fact that one hand had no haptics and the other was fine, you know?
And not just a temporary issue, the permanent issue.
Right. Well, for that time, for him, it's more permanent for sure. But yeah, it took me weeks to get used to the idea of not feeling the hits.
Yeah, and that's something I've been used to and before, and we can actually pivot really if you want. When I designed and created the gloves that I played Beat Saber with for a little bit, they don't have haptics because they're based on the original Vive puck. And so slowly my brain has already evolved into that of not having it, but where I'd like to have it is in something like Pavlov, where I would like to feel the kickback of the weapon, or in something like, what is a much more... No, that's the only game I'd really like to see it in. But other than that, it's fine just missing one. I know it's my right hand. I already know where it is in space. So.
Okay, I mean, I totally need the feedback in Beat Saber and Synth Riders, and I think it was in Beat Saber for a while, or it's still happening, where in the left hand, sometimes the feedback just dropped out for a few seconds, and then it came back.
Yeah.
So
Really? You guys had that too?
Yeah, but I think that's I don't know where it's really coming from. It might be Steam VR, it might be the game, or it might be hardware. Who knows? I mean,
So there is an interesting quirk of the tracking in Steam VR where if for some reason it loses Lighthouse or IMU data, but not both, you get a partial failure of the tracking, and that's usually when the haptics will give out. So a lot of times, if you notice that haptics missing, you might have had a miss too, because that frame data from the tracking is gone.
I when I had that issue, I saw that I hit the block, so it was not a miss,
Really?
and it was several in a row, and then still the haptics was not responding, but then it came back.
Yeah, that does sound like a partial tracking failure. I still get that stuff a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but it does happen occasionally, and it's disconcerting because it usually happens for me when I'm flailing on the harder maps, when I've got my elbows ankled and I'm doing the squirrel jerky stuff. That's when it'll happen.
Okay. It's interesting that it's related maybe to tracking instead of like software or so. Cool. Good to know. Because maybe then
I think it's both.
Fix it.
I think it's both because they use software to merge the IMU and tracker data to give you that overall tracking picture. And I think what's happening is whatever they've written to combine that tracking data is failing when it loses one of those vectors.
And I was going to ask, have you guys discussed on the podcast about a year back now, in early 2020, they actually modified the algorithm that Steam VR uses because people were able to move their hands so quickly.
That was 2019. That was within the first 6 months of Beat Saber coming out.
Yeah,
you are right. Steam realized was all, oh my God. These guys are flicking their wrists like 60 times a second faster than we thought they could. Holy shit. What was the terminology they used? When properly motivated, I believe.
Yes, that was the phrase. When properly motivated. So
I want that high score.
Yeah, right. I wonder then if there's a correlation between hardware and software in this case. Like you pointed out, they're merging the two datas into one. I wonder with the USB bus being the way it is, if they're not getting enough bandwidth to the CPU to handle the calculations and so on.
Well, as far as I know, they updated the firmware of the Lighthouse to track faster. It was a firmware upgrade as well. So it was not only like bandwidth issue. It was also really changing refresh rate or algorithm in the firmware of the base stations. There had to be an update as well.
They literally changed the rate at which it was tracking.
Really?
I can't remember from what to what, but they essentially upped the refresh rate that the lighthouses were tracking. Well, that the controllers were tracking everything at. So, yeah.
Oh my, I need to look that up now.
It's
if you have a link
in V2?
If you have in the Lighthouse version 2, it's already in there for sure.
So the V1's needed.
You shouldn't have to update anything for it. This was something that they changed in Steam VR before the index even came out. Wait, hold on. I'm mixing up timelines here. 2018 is when Beat Saber came out. So 2018 is when that update would have hit Steam, like 6 months after it came out. 2019 is when the index came out.
Okay. So then I'm really curious to know where my Vive system sits then, because I've yet to tack down what generation this is. Because it's somewhat, some say it's a V2 index, some say it's a V1, but the lighthouses don't look right. The controllers are a little different.
So
I read about an update about that 11th February 2019. That is when that was updated.
Was it a year after? That's months before original pre-orders for Index.
Maybe they interpreted it coming.
But, okay, so
maybe
you're
that
trying
has
to figure
been.
out which version of the lighthouses you have. Is that what you're
No,
saying, Chunker?
Which version of the HTC Vive?
Oh,
I don't know which version I have.
Has there been a new one? I just know there has been the pre-Vive and then the customer Vive.
Right. So
and then the Vive Pro.
Any Vive that's not a Vive Pro, the pre and the production are the same Vive for all intents and purposes. If it's a gray black Vive and it's not a Vive Pro, it's the same thing. They're all the same V1 lighthouses and all of that nonsense. Yeah. Yes.
One of these.
That.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it looks like that, they're all the same.
So then I wonder if there's the firmware is causing the lighthouse cluster to look different in pictures.
Maybe.
Yeah, this is one of the first Vives when they were available, more or less. Not really the very first ones, a little bit later. I don't know, they discontinued it in the meantime, I think. It's not available anymore.
What is that little thing hanging down on the... Is that a dead cat? It is a dead cat. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to use the microphone again, and I realized it doesn't have it doesn't have a pop filter or anything. And I thought I put one of these on there to make my airflow not do this sharp sound when talking and stuff. Yeah. But the quality of the microphone is still not that good. So I attached one of the magnets of the mod mic here on the side of the Vive, and now I can use the mod mic on there as well. And the mod mic is just awesome, as we use that here right now as well. Hashtag partnered.
Mod mic, get you some.
You can kind of see mine, but it's on an adapter to adapt the COS headphones to the mod mic to 1970s technology into 2021.
You need to reach up a little bit because the fence is blocking that.
Here. Let me change scenes to pimp out the mod mic. Okay, so as you can see, it's an adaptation of a COS Pro headset, 1977 OG one. Not talking the remakes here. Well, they were my great grandfather's. Adapted to a piece of plastic, adapted up to a mod mic adapter. 2021 meet 1970s.
Yeah, because I mean, I tried to use the microphone and I realized that it doesn't sound that well, and decided to use the mod mic for that again. But I got the, what did you call it? Dead cat? What?
Yeah, it's called cat. A dead. Yeah, it's called a dead filter.
Yeah. Call them dead cats here. I also have a small one for some of my smaller microphones that I call a dead rat or a dead mouse.
Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm curious to see what you call this one.
Corbin, I did the exact same thing with my Vive, except it was a brand new fuzzy black sock. I just turned it inside out and cut off a tiny piece of it because, brand new sock. It's got the maximum fuzz on it.
Okay.
Cut a square in the middle of a piece of black duct tape and...
Yeah, I was looking, I was having the same as well. And, it looked like a mustache if you have attached that to the Vive, and it was hanging loose a little bit and downwards. And then if you are in the right angle, it looks like you would have a mustache or so.
That's why I had the real tiny, that's why I went with a piece of sock. Because it's so skinny that it wasn't like hanging down. Yeah, no Hitler mustache for this guy.
Exactly. That's the biggest fear of the accidental. Yeah. Oh, so Crin, what would you call this one? Oh, goodness, don't turn it that way.
A dead chinchilla.
Okay, for the people who are just listening to the cast today and not watching it, can you describe what that is on? I mean, dead chinchilla doesn't sound that bad, but still. We have what?
We have a Tascam DR40. It's an audio recorder, high-end audio recorder.
It's a really nice toy.
Yes, I use it for recording lectures in college, and then I actually brought it into its proper place with a GoPro attached to it. But I noticed being out where I am, there's a lot of wind during every time of year, including summer, winter, fall, and spring. So I needed a dead cat for it, which prevents the wind noise from getting into the microphone array. But it doesn't look like a cat. Crin has described it as a dead chinchilla.
I see.
Or Bob Ross with gray hair.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Mm.
You
I forget
Bob
people
Ross
just
for your
listen.
microphone. Oh my god.
Hey, it's a very well. You think about it, just like Bob Ross, it's a very nice microphone with a very sultry sound to it.
Nice. Yeah, okay, but
Little microphones.
let's get a little bit back to topics, because that was a nice excursion.
It was. Oh wait, I could tie it in if you would like. I could segue this.
Did Chunker
Feel free.
telling us about the games he's been playing?
That's really been it. I mean, I could segue it right into the Live Eye Tracker. One thing I've noticed in Beat Saber, because I'm very expressive with my face and my eyes particularly, I'm noticing Vive is talking about maybe getting a patent in for eye tracking or something. I heard lip tracking. That was the big one.
They released
lip
it.
tracking.
It's out. The mouth tracker?
You're
It's out.
joking.
No,
I've seen that as well.
Yeah, seriously,
yeah.
has one.
And it's for the Vive Pro, if I see that correctly. It might be attached to the Vive as well, because they have the same shape, and it's attached beneath where the microphone is also. I have not seen that in action yet, so not sure how that works really.
Either.
But
I'm assuming the VR chatters are going to be the first ones all over it.
The only thing that I've seen so far where it was like not really being used, because it was not a mouth tracker, but in Star Trek Bridge Crew. If you play Star Trek Bridge Crew, it's mandatory to have a microphone. And when you are talking, they animate the characters that you see in VR with lip movement. So maybe if that evolves, because that amps up the immersion, of course, a lot. If you can see people's face expressions, if you have the characters there and you see their mouth moving and you see their even eyes moving or even doing facial expressions and stuff, that will, I mean, VR is already very immersive, as we all know. But having a character in front of you that can express emotions with his face, oh my gosh, the future is now. And it has been already before. What the hell?
It's going to be exciting.
Lip tracking for me...
No, do it.
Oh, lip tracking for me wouldn't be as useful. I want this portion right here. And I see it in the show notes, the Vive Eye Tracker. Where have you guys seen that? Because I want to... That's one thing I want, and I want it on the OG.
Nothing in the consumer gaming segment is really using eye tracking. Some of the developers have hyped up technical uses for it, but for the most part, it only exists in the commercial segment.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just not in use yet. So hopefully it's on the list. We're going to talk about it in a minute here, but hopefully Deca, when that comes out, is going to standardize some form of eye tracking. Because as it stands, you have to, what is it like? Can you get a Vive Pro eye for less than $800? I don't think the HMD with the eye tracking goes for less than $800 new.
I don't think
just
so either.
The goggles. It's literally just a Pro with the eye trackers built in and no lighthouses or controllers or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the Deca Move or the Deca Gear. Isn't that what they're calling the full set? Deca Gear?
Deca Gear is the full set, and the hip tracker is Deca Move. I've heard about the Deca Move as well. We've been talking about that last 2 weeks ago. And has somebody got his hands already on one of those and tried that? Because it should help a lot with motion sickness, because it's like separating your head, where normally games are calculating the rest of your body that is always below your head, which isn't true, of course, because you're leaning left and right, front and back. Yeah. And that indicates motion sickness, because if they do that and they say, okay, your character isn't really moving, they're moving the floor below you, even though you are not moving. But with that hip tracker where they can separate that, it might really be a solution. But I've not seen that in action. I've not seen that in action yet.
You're 100% right. It's the whole rooster neck thing, right? The entire idea that we're walking from the hips, but all that bobbing is being controlled from the hips and the neck. And
Well, and that was part of the big reason why Boneworks had so much motion sickness reported back, is because you could see your full torso in comparison to other games like.
And the physics ticks. Their physics ticks were a problem. The fact that you grab something and start vibrating like that.
And I know I saw the development of that game because I follow Stress Level Zero on YouTube. So I was able to see the development of that game as it went. And I was sitting there going, the vibration doesn't look good. I mean, I understand they were playing with very early Knuckles. But still,
we were all so excited when they were all, but check out the reload kickflip. Come on, you guys can do this.
Oh, yeah, right?
I had a lot of issues.
Reload kickflip off.
I had a lot of issues with Boneworks because of that. Because I think I got Boneworks in the same time, more or less, as Half-Life Alyx, and I gave it a try. But then I played Half-Life Alyx, and Half-Life Alyx is more or less doing it all right, even though they don't have the hip tracker, because there you can choose between teleport and locomotion, and if you have issues with locomotion, then why not doing teleport? And Boneworks says they are calculating the position of your feet, and that's why they can't do teleport. But if the hip tracker is helping there, then it should help a lot.
My issue with the Boneworks thing is the climbing. Like, climbing was the most gut-wrenching thing for me in that game.
Really?
And when Population 1, even just getting into the beta on Pop 1, did it right first try, I was really upset. I really was, because it took them, Stress Level Zero, several patches to stop making me sick inside half hour, 40 minutes of gameplay because I grabbed something and looked the wrong way while I was climbing.
I think I'm one of the weird ones. I don't get motion sick inside of any VR game. I
don't either. That's why I pointed out the whole I had to grab it and climb a certain way, and then because it's certain combinations of movement that'll do it for me, right?
Okay.
The one that still triggers me, and I can make it happen anytime, is Vivecraft. I go in there and I start playing Minecraft on that Vive build, and if I am sitting there trying to power mine stuff as quickly as I can while I'm in VR using the snap turn, it inevitably makes me sick within 5 minutes of just going and going and going with the mining and the snap turning. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't experience that in Vivecraft. Well, granted, I didn't play straight Vivecraft. I played not Skyblock, Sky Factory with Vivecraft. So looking down, you don't see anything. You just see void. I have a little bit of flashbacks there because it would loop you. You would fall off the world and you'd get looped. So you're just falling.
Oh my God.
You're passing your friends. You're going, guys, help. Please?
Stuff like that in VR is never ever fun.
Yeah, I mean,
it did make my stomach go right into my throat, and I was like, no.
I mean, with the motion sickness, it's a thing though. I know somebody who also had a lot of problems with motion sickness or getting motion sick a lot. I mean, for me, it still happens after like 2 hours. So I can play Boneworks, for example, for about 2 hours. And then I have to take a small break. And then I can continue a little bit for like a half an hour. So it's returning faster. But at least for about 2 hours, it was okay. And the guy I'm talking about said after now playing like 2,000 hours or more in VR, he's only playing in VR anymore. He doesn't play at least not much Pancake anymore, mostly VR. And he says he got rid of it. So you can train that off. It just takes a while.
So Boneworks doesn't do it to me since they fixed it.
When did that update happen?
First came, it was probably within 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks of the game coming out. Mm-hmm. It was pretty soon, and it was major updates to the physics engine. And before that, the jittering with the climbing and stuff was so bad. As long as I didn't let my hands or my body end up in frame when I was climbing, it wouldn't cause issues for me. But as soon as I started looking around and I could see my body going like this below me, it completely ruined it for me.
Okay.
and I would start getting sick. But the one that was really bad for me was actually Skyrim.
Really?
Yeah, and that was more performance oriented. When I finally got a better machine, for the most part, I could play Skyrim without getting sick, but the snap turning and being aggressive while snap turning would make me sick. But the crazy thing is I can do that in Population 1. I can
it
physically
seems to
turn
be
in my space while snap turning to accelerate my targeting, and it doesn't make me sick or disorient me at all. If I were to do that in Skyrim, even to this day, I would still get disoriented and I'd eventually get sick. So
it's really interesting because I just recently started to play Hinge, which is a new horror game for VR, and they are doing something right as well because they only have locomotion, so you only can use the analog stick to move. And I was able to play that for, I think, more than 2 hours. I just wanted to test if it works for me on Linux. But the game is that intense that immersive. I couldn't leave it. And I wanted to test it more and more and stuff. And it was really interesting. And there I could play for more than 2 hours without getting motion sick. So either I'm getting used to it and I have that issue occurring less to me, or they are doing something different. And it's probably not much that they do different, but
I think it's
developers are learning how to do it right now. It just took a while, but they are learning how to do it right now.
Well, and hopefully with the advent of the new Vive trackers, the 3.0s, did they skip a generation? Am I missing something on that? Because all I have is the puck.
So there's two versions of the puck.
Okay.
There's one that doesn't have any coloring on it. The whole thing's black. That's the 1.0.
Okay.
The one that has the blue ring for the Vive logo, that's technically the 2.0. They're referred to as 2018. And they go with the like pro controllers, like what Lifesaver uses, the purple, blue-ish looking Vive wands. Those are Vive 2018 as well. And then the new tracker is same styling theme as the first two, but all black again and skinnier. So like looks similar, but it's all thinner.
Yeah, and I'm noticing
the first two trackers look almost exactly the same. Like if you didn't know
I've got the blue ones.
about the fact that so that right there means it's a 2.0 tracker. If that thing was a gray color instead of that teal color, it'd be 1.0.
Yeah, so you're having now a staff with trackers on both ends?
Yeah, I've had Mall stick for a long time.
Yeah, just for our listeners. They don't see what you hold on the camera.
my biggest...
Yes, sorry.
Yes, my biggest
I was holding up
a
Mall staff with a Vive tracker on each end. It is a carbon fiber rod. Yeah.
My biggest fear with any type of Mall stick, and that's something I think that maybe the Vive, the 3.0 trackers are going to help with a bit, is accidentally impacting something that puck is taking all the damage and everything. And that's my biggest fear of any Mall or any modification to a controller. Because there's not much meat. Let's be realistic. There's not much meat in those pucks in comparison to the actual wands. So
I was just looking at chat, Lifesavers chat, the big difference between those 1.0 and 2.0 trackers, the original Vive trackers are not compatible with Lighthouse 2.0.
Really?
Correct.
Yeah, but that's
only compatible with Lighthouse 1.0. So it's very much the same thing as the difference between Vive wands and Vive Pro wands.
Yeah, indeed.
The Vive Pro wands will not work on 1.0 trackers.
So then how do you think Valve, I almost said Steam, how do you think Valve conquered that problem then with the Knuckles being compatible with Lighthouse 1.0s?
Oh, that's the tracking there. They are the newer devices are compatible with the 1.0 base stations. Yeah. So I'm just not sure about the trackers. Are the new trackers compatible with one?
Yes.
Yeah.
New stuff is backwards compatible.
Indeed, it's just not the other way around.
Sorry, it's just not the other way around. Sorry, I was mixing stuff up there. My mistake.
So I'm curious to know then, how did they achieve? I understand backwards compatibility, But why 4?
It's the technology is similar, but with Lighthouse 2.0, they made some changes to make it expandable and modular, and something about those changes made it so that the 2.0 stuff, the 1.0 equipment can't track on 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
but the other way around is possible.
1.0 wands or trackers or even the HMD, they will not work with 2.0 lighthouses. Right.
But you can use the index, the knuckles, which are normally delivered. If you get the full package with 2.0 lighthouse base stations, they can be used with 1.0 base stations.
Interesting.
And that's the same with the Vive Pro vans. They work on 1.0 because, for example, here I have at the moment both. I have the HTC Vive, a complete set. So the 1.0 tracking as well as the index with 2.0 tracking. And I just can take my index up here with the knuckles as well as with the Pro vans and use them on my 1.0 base station. But it's not the other way around. So if I would use my Vive Wand vans, I couldn't use them downstairs with the new tracking. That won't work. Those are the old ones.
So,
and the new ones have the same shape, just a different color. The Pro vans.
Interesting. So then I wonder at what point we're gonna these trackers are gonna be able to go backwards and forwards, which is nice. But it makes me wonder at what point we're gonna get to what's the word? Obsolescence. I would say. At what point are we gonna have technology that is completely obsolete, can't go forward, can't go backwards?
I mean, I hate to say this because there are a lot of us who are just now getting our 2.0 lighthouses and stuff. But I mean, it depends how they want to expand the technology, right? As it stands, the 2.0 lighthouses are such that I can't foresee any reason to upgrade them in the near future. There is no limitation for number of devices you can actively track with them or anything. That's more related to the radio signals you can get back to the machine. And what's interesting about the way 2.0 lighthouses work is you can have play spaces intersecting, right? Meaning, in theory, I could take both of these computers that I have set up here, right? Plug an index into each of them with their own pairs of controllers, and both of them can calibrate in the same play space using the same lighthouses and even function at the same time.
Yeah, that's not an issue because the base stations are sending out the rays and you are just using that PC. So the calibration is stored on that configuration. And then you can have as many as you like in this play space. Just make sure they are not playing at the same time because they would totally run into each other.
Because you'd run into each other, but that's another software layer. In theory, you could put everybody in backpacks with batteries and plug HMDs into them and calibrate them all in that same play space. And if you're running in a networked application, you could be interacting in the same environment at the same time.
I don't know which game that was, but it's something like Tower Tech. It's not really Tower Tech because it was a different game, but I have seen that on Gamescom. They had a huge area with 4 people playing, and they had like 2.0 base stations, and you were like shooting waves of androids coming towards you. I don't know the name anymore.
You know, there have been a couple really, really interesting examples, and one of the coolest ones I saw was actually done by freaking Oculus, and they showed it off. When was this? I want to say it was right around the time they showed off the original Quest, right before it came out. They were showing off a tech demo where they had a whole bunch of players. I think it was like 6 people in a large space, right? And oh my God, it was a game that was kind of like Hover Junkers, where everybody was kind of in their own platform area, so the play spaces didn't actually cross, but everybody was playing multiplayer in the same large space. And what was crazy was they were doing spectator setups where you could join with an iPad, right? And using the cameras on the iPad and being networked with the game, you could hold it up and effectively have an augmented reality window into the game and like see what the players were doing from the sidelines and walk along the sidelines and watch through your little tablet view. Like, the possibilities are
this is like
endless.
Mixed reality camera holding where you're looking into the VR space. Yes.
Yeah. My question
Absolutely.
is, though, why an iPad?
Cool.
Why not the iPhone? Because the iPhone has a better camera. So, okay, I understand now. It was back in the day. Never mind.
No, you don't need a camera there at all.
A bunch of people walking around with the iPad going like this.
The screen of your device is the virtual camera. You don't need the real camera of the phone.
Yeah.
Because you're looking into the VR space.
So
it's using the rear camera with the LiDAR and stuff on it to help track the location of the tablet itself. That's why it doesn't need its own tracker.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it literally was AR, so you could have a layer on top of the people actually inside the game. So you could see the physical.
Might be possible.
The way the software's working, totally plausible if they did it, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's totally content ingest at that point. Because I'm sure it's all like RTMP streams that they're using to get the content back to that tablet in the first place.
Yeah. Just keeping it in network.
So even though I have not been there, but B&O in my chat just mentioned the multiple spaces tracking with Lighthouse is done in VER arcades a lot. And
yes,
I've not been there in one yet, so I haven't seen that. I just saw that on Gamescom with that one giant space where they had only 2 base stations, and I was like, how is that working? But okay, those are the new ones. They can track a
that's
way bigger area.
Literally, that's literally where the whole concept of Lighthouse 2.0 came from.
Yeah.
Was you can, like, in theory, if I took this extra lighthouse I've got here and stuck it above my front door, I could have an L-shaped play space here. That I could move around, and if I wanted, I could bring somebody else in an HMD into that play space, and we could share it.
I could see that.
What's the name of the company behind Shockwave again? Those guys, they have experience in exactly that kind of content.
Really?
It's
Shockwave, indeed, with the bodysuit thingy.
Yep. If you go check the Kickstarter and go visit their website, all the free games that they're talking about giving us with the Shockwave that fully support it, these are their own VR arcade titles.
Oh, really?
That they've already deployed into VR arcades around the world.
Creek Smokehead
and they've
Shockwave.
modified them so that you can use them for single player local experiences. So,
speaking of, I need to talk to them because I used my real name, not my handle. So I think people are getting confirmations in our team, and I'm going,
who's that?
Did you just say people are getting confirmations on it?
From a while ago.
Well,
they were getting something about shipping.
Whoever's supposed to be getting the test suits. Last I heard, they were still working on that run, and then sometime soonish, the people getting the test suits should be seeing them.
Okay, good to know.
But yeah, I think it's still June that they're saying they're going to get us ours, which is crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, the new trackers, I haven't seen anything about them, but that's interesting. And I wonder at what point we're going to hit saturation with them in the 2.0 base stations. You know what I mean? At what point are we too saturated with the radio signals? Because they're running on the 2.4 gigahertz band.
They are not sending out signals on their own, are they?
No, I'm talking the headsets are sending out the signals because they're Bluetooth. So yes, the 2.4 gigahertz band for the Bluetooth. But at what point are we going to saturate that layer enough?
Oh shit! I mean, 2.4, that's been saturated for decades, ever since mobile phones hit that spectrum.
I mean, we see that, for example, the Steam controller, they do have their own dongle and stuff. And I don't, aren't they coming with their own dongle?
Did you know? I didn't learn this until Headass was experimenting with it. That dongle that came with the Steam controller is effectively the same kind of hardware that the tracker dongle is.
Yeah,
and you can actually flash that 100%. Steam controller dongle to work with the tracker.
Yep, 100%. On the this one is the Steam Stop Focus, you Frog Snacks one. This one's the Vive one, and this one's the Seam one. They are the same under the hood. Stop it.
I mean, it makes sense. It's the same company. They're doing.
Yeah.
They don't want to reinvent the wheel for each hardware they produce. So, yeah, but they are doing it with their own protocol and stuff, and that seems to be quite robust and fast. I mean, you can turn. I know you can turn the Steam controller into a Bluetooth connection.
Yeah.
So what the hardware inside there? It's the hardware that's used for Bluetooth, but they're using their own protocol to make it more reliable and a little bit faster or so. But it also works with Bluetooth. So maybe that's how they get around the oversaturation of Bluetooth.
Yeah. Huh.
Bluetooth.
I understand.
It's called Bluetooth.
I mean, they're all of these open frequency standards. Like 2.4 was blown open by the FCC a while ago and basically made a public standard. And they essentially said, be responsible citizens when you're launching and using these products. And a lot of these companies are getting around those limitations by having advanced channel hopping features built in. And I mean, I'm sure you guys remember back in the day, our 2.4 gigahertz routers would give us the option to go ahead and select which channel we were on. And if we saw a channel was more saturated than another, we could go ahead and jump to it.
Yeah, and that was completely wrong to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Well,
there are 3 channels you should use and not any others.
Oh, don't even get me started on how many routers and the like out there had the ability to turn up the gain well beyond legal limits, so you can easily blow out your neighbor's Wi-Fi if you wanted to.
No idea what you're talking. None. None. Are
you broadcasting Wi-Fi at illegal levels?
No.
He's hiding behind the fence. Why is he doing that? Because he's turning red?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm right here. The router I own is pretty powerful, and it's not at illegal levels. It's able to just clear 0.75 of an acre with ease.
all right.
Yeah, it's a beefy little guy. But
I mean, that's the perfect segue because we have now talked about all the stuff. Spiritchunker, what are you doing with all the prototyping there?
I was gonna go back to the Tundra trackers and go like, I wonder how similar they're gonna look. Are they still gonna use the 1/4-inch screw inside of there so I can use it for things that I'm working on? Things like the Deca Move, the gear is something that I was still looking into. I was looking into getting a prototype, but I'm building a lot of things. Only a few things I can really talk about, and what do you guys want to know about it?
That's a good question. Just tell us what you have and what you're working on.
So because right now,
I mean, I've seen. We want to also get that a little bit into the streaming area. There's also one topic we might still talk about because it's in the streaming topic as well. Because you have integrated stuff that you built into your stream.
Yeah.
And maybe the only thing that I know that you have a confetti cannon there that's triggering in the perfect times when you really like it and stuff. But things like that. What are you building there? And maybe we can start off from there to all the other fancy stuff.
You're the guest tonight, Chunker. This morning. Tell us about you and your stream.
So the confetti cannon is getting reconfigured. After my birthday, it took an hour and a half to clean up the confetti. Never doing that again. Okay. In fact, that was in a smaller play area. So now I've got a bigger play area, which means I can find confetti for years to come. In fact, a couple weeks back, I was pulling away some of the stuff I have over here because I have ants. Whoa. Ants love to come into the house. Yeah, and out of nowhere, hey, look, confetti. So that is getting reconfigured to use probably ping pong balls or Ninja. She showed me I call her Bun Bun. She showed me some of these white puffy ball thingies that I could shoot out to. I'm working on a few things. The big one that I'm working on now, and I'm actually curious, the Tundra trackers might be the one to go to for this. is I want to integrate the actual camera that I use for stream, and have it be fully controllable inside of the live play space by chat.
So what I've seen there, that you can control your camera already a little bit. The external there is another cam. You have several cameras, of course. One for the mixed reality view, and then you have on some streams it's called butt cam, on other streams it's called cringe cam. So and you can control that already a little bit.
I have a total of 3 cameras in the play space. One there, which is the main mixed reality camera. There's one, I have to shut off NVIDIA broadcast really quick. There is one over there.
Right behind you, on the corner, yeah?
You could kind of see it right there with the PVC pipe sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, this camera is amazing, but at the same time, it looks like I'm green screened in, but I'm not. This is right off the tops. And then I've got this guy right here, which is the Connect V2. But what I'm talking about is going a step further and having the mixed reality camera be controlled by stream.
That's why the tracker on it. I mean, that was already possible. That's what Togi VR is doing for his promo videos, right? He has a tracker on his movable camera and is moving in the VR space to get different angles. And that's what you are going to do with like a movable setup then?
A camera jig, yeah. So the problem is I'm a one-man operation. Everything is created.
Yes.
And so having the ability to have someone else plug into it and control it live time is something I've been wanting to do since I started streaming at this level.
Totally makes sense. This is a very nice like chat integration thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see.
Slowly over time, it's been building into itself and creating a robot that's able to handle the interpolation or the interpolation layer. What else is it? Also having it, not break is the big thing too, but it's all slowly building on top of each other. Like I've got a project going for life, right? 3 projects for life right now. And they're all building on top of each other over time. So
right on. Okay.
Ooh, fancy.
You can get into detail. Let us know.
Life, give me a thumbs up. I could see you on stream. Can I talk about one thing?
I can already guess what one of them is. And I'm guessing it has something to do with an unused slider.
Yeah, that one can I talk about?
He's giving a thumbs up. That's a thumbs up.
So,
yeah, that's totally a thumbs up, even though that's a thumbs down. Doesn't matter. I see thumbs up, so go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, the camera slider one is actually building on top of right into bringing the full camera jig into mixed reality. He approached me. He's like, yeah, I want to be able to have a camera that moves up and down, but keeps focused on one area. Mm-hmm. And my head immediately went to the one that I made just without one servo on it, but have a tracker on top, GoPro in the middle, and then an IMU sensor, or not an IMU, what are they called? Gyroscope sensor that would measure X, Y.
Yeah.
So as it tilts, and then use kinematics to calculate where it needs to stay in space as it goes up and down in this direction, but also tilts up and tilts down.
Yeah.
So that's what one of the ones I'm working on for him. And it's fun.
I can imagine that. Yeah, I see. So it's like keeping one point in the space as where the camera should always point, and no matter where it moves, it's always pointing into that point, probably the player or so, where the player is in the space.
I mean, it maybe cringe cam, so it stays on live spot the whole time, who knows, or his face, or the whole body. The body would be easier, but it's something. It's it's getting approached with things like that and designing it and building it. It's I think lot.
I think
fun.
phase 2 is cringe cam. Phase 2 is when you add a second tracker to the entire rig, and you stick it on a little motorized wheel with some gearing so that you can automatically throw a telephoto zoom in there.
So just heads up, Live says you can talk about all the things.
Oh, okay. About all three?
Yeah. He says in chat, can
Okay,
someone tell him
Yeah.
he can talk about all of the ones he's doing for me?
Yeah, and then the other thing he approached me about, that one, Corinne, I see where you're going with that one. There's a slight problem with that. And I've looked into this because people like, we want zoom on your camera. We want zoom. And I'm going, I'll try.
The only way I've been able to think of to get zoom to work, and I've been experimenting with it, and it is kludgy as hell, is you need, oh my God, like FOV is the only tool we've got in Live that'll actually allow us to do that, right? So you have to sync your FOV changes with those telephoto changes.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, as you all know, I'm not using Live, but I tried to do a zoom thing as well, and doing that with, for example, Camera Plus and Beat Saber. And that syncing with a real camera, that's really tricky to say at least, because it's totally off. After it works for a certain area because it's close enough and you don't really see it. It's not perfect anymore, but on stream it must not be 100% perfect. If it's like 95% perfect, it's enough. But after that, if you're moving your controllers too far out, then you see how they are drifting away from the original position. And
I vaguely remember watching you do that early on.
It's very tricky to do that. So getting that on the one hand with your camera, I mean, if it can do like with a zoom changing FOV, then you are fine, I guess, because then you can sync that, as you said, with the software. But if you do that and one of the things cannot change FOV, then it's tricky. You can do that with software again. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I approached it from a hardware layer. I was trying to get the camera itself. So the two cameras that I use for stream are both C920s, not the 22s, C920s. And I've been looking into how the Logitech software actually handles their falsetto, what is it called? Digital zoom. Yeah. And I can't get the layer because the way it works, the bot and the camera controller are two separate entities. And then the camera itself is plugged into the computer. I have no way of talking to that layer without using something like WebSockets, which adds another layer on top of the already, pretty stressed rig. And even then, it's Logitech and trying to get inside and trying to get it to communicate with the software zoom. So I
know what you're talking about.
Latency. That extra latency starts causing timing issues when you're trying to do your transitions. And that's why on my mixed reality multicam rig, I've got explosions on my transitions because it takes a second for the next webcam to come online. And
and that's one thing. It's like, if I were to do this the way I have in my head, it'd all be done by the rig that's sending the data out. So how do I think? Like to do, or no, boom, brain fart, back up. I was thinking of actually taking a proper rig from filmmaking. Corinne, your eyes lined up perfectly where you could see right through your logo. Looked great. I was thinking a proper rig with a proper DSLR camera hooked into, and I've seen it in the movie industry and in the commercial industry, where it actually has tiny servos the size of my pinky that change the ring for focus.
They're called focus pulling servos.
Exactly.
And it's totally doable, but the big problem comes down to getting the FOV on the compositor to change at the right time for it to work. And the other trick is, how fast can you get that servo to move to adjust your telephoto distance, right? We get to adjust fast enough? It depends on the lens, right? And it depends on the strength of the servos. And it depends. And depending on the lens, if the lens isn't parfocal, you're dealing with a refocus throughout that entire range too.
Exactly.
It's either going to be you're either going to trigger autofocus along the way and it's going to step focus along the way, or it's just going to be out of focus until you hit the end and you refocus. And
I mean,
focal glass
probably
that doesn't have to refocus is expensive.
Yeah, I think it probably depends a little bit on what you want to achieve. Do you want to have that all smooth going along, or is it like, yeah, I want to have some presets where it moves to, and just swapping between those presets, because that might be a little bit easier to approach, because there you can have fixed presets, and then like chat can select one of those presets, it moves there. In the meantime, where it's moving, it might be off a little bit, it might be a little bit blurry, it might be a little bit janky or so, but if it reaches the end position of that preset, then it's all fine again. Having that all smooth all over the way and being completely configurable, that's a really tricky thing. But with presets, maybe that's a good way to go first. And I think that's what you are doing, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, and if you do it that way, if you are dealing with like a zoom and then refocus, there's nothing stopping you from using other transitional elements at the same time, right? Like an explosion.
So
or some kind of cutaway and like you running across the screen and then the new camera, right? Like get creative with it.
It will improve over time.
Yeah, and I was thinking just take it from another layer with that jig, at least not the one that I'm making for life. Life's is going to stay in one level. Take it further and actually have this direction so you could pull in and push out, or push in, pull out, and also have full 360. I would need a square room, a true square room with a ceiling that I can drill into. But yeah, at least for faking zoom, you could kind of do that with a push in. So
yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Well, with like anybody who has higher res cameras that they're using for their mixed reality has an advantage on the lot of us. If you are able to run that camera at say 4K 60 when you're capturing your compositor, what you can do is crop in on that and you are still going to have 1080p.
Exactly.
So there's nothing stopping you from doing a, 4 times crop down to the middle of the screen, and you can just use a move transition in OBS to achieve that. You don't need another camera, So I mean, there's different options here.
And there's a few tricks I
something
picked
like
up along
that,
the way.
using a move transition inside OBS to crop in on a 4K source to 1080, that'll actually cover a lot of those issues that we're talking about, and for most people, it'll look clean and it's instant.
Yeah.
So something like that's an option for anybody with the equipment. A lot of us can't afford to run a 4K compositor for one reason or another with a 4K video feed. But
well, and let's be honest here too, with me, half my stuff breaks. So I wouldn't get to that 4K level until I'm done with the prototyping. Like right now I'm having a problem. It seems like the magnet that was pushed into here is starting to come out. So this was starting to fall out. The mod mic was coming, but anything I break has a shelf life of about a year before it starts to fail. So I'd have to build in some redundancies in there to prevent it from breaking. So before I get to 4K, we're going to mess with these cheapo $100 cameras and then maybe 4K down the line. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see. It's interesting to see as things go on.
Onion. I just saw that. What about an Armatron? I had one of those as a kid. Oh my God. Let's do it. Take an Armatron, hook it up to an Arduino,
Googling.
get that hooked up to CPH. Oh my God. So Armatron, for those of you who don't remember, was a toy from late 70s, early 80s, I think was when it originally hit. And it is a robotic arm that has 2 lever controllers on it that look very much like analog sticks, right? And they can be pushed in any direction or rotated. And you use these controls to orient this robotic arm that has it had like an effective wrist joint, an elbow joint, and I guess what could be a shoulder joint for the very bottom. And then it had a claw that you could articulate on the end.
So it's funny
it came with like little toy balls and cylinders and stuff. And the idea was you would just like pick stuff up and move it around with the robot arm. So yeah, hook a webcam or something up to that thing.
It's funny you bring that up. Legitimately, I was looking into servo arms and stuff that I could 3D print more recently because I'm like, you know, the camera's cool and all going the way it is.
I don't think they ever did a reproduction of them, so I bet they're kind of collectible these days.
Well, and I could pull up in Thingiverse if I run servo arm or 6-axis arm, I get stuff like that and hooking things into stream like that.
You know what? Here's one that's untested on eBay for $29, which even if it's dead, it doesn't matter.
My only fear is what voltage are we running? These are probably what, AAAs?
No, they ran on, I think it was 6D cells.
Series or parallel?
Oh shit, I can't remember. It was probably a 5-volt circuit, dude.
Okay. So then it is possible. But I mean, I instead of sacrificing something like this to the gods of making, I would make my own instead of destroying a piece of history.
I mean, I'm seeing a bunch of them for parts on here in like the $20 to $30 range, which is that'll get us all the servos we need. You know, these things. I can tell you, I got mine from a very young age, and I was abusive with the thing. Like, the shit I did to those servos, I'm surprised they never burned out, to be perfectly honest. Like, I intentionally, they did a good job with the gearing because I intentionally did shit like overrun the claw on it, and it would sit there
and just
snapping back and forth back into its all the way open position. And if you closed it all the way, it would do the same thing. There was a slip gear in there that would keep it from burning itself out. So I'm betting the servos aren't what's failed in the ones that are
it's
dead.
probably
I bet it's like a dead transformer or a popped capacitor or something like that.
Yeah,
because these are 80s electronics, right? Those caps blew all the freaking time, and that's a 5-minute fix for something like you or me, right? So why not?
Yeah, true. And did you know that, you probably knew this, but maybe the audience doesn't, inside of the Sega Genesis, if one of the caps was failing, inside of the NES, if one of the caps were failing, one of the games, and I believe it was Lion King, would run faster. If one of the caps was failing over time, the game would run faster. And that's how people started to detect something was wrong with their piece of kit. Just fun little thing like that. But oh my
God.
It's funny that was brought up because I've been sitting here mulling, looking around, looking for something very similar to that guy right there and going, I could do this. Because I think I know the issue you're talking about. It's like literally one of the caps on the voltage rail. Yeah,
and it caused a clock speed increase.
Exactly.
Because of reduced resistance.
And it sped the game up, and that's how we knew things were starting to break. And people are like, oh man, I got to replace the cap. Yeah, but
good old times. So that brings up memories. I had one of those NES, but I didn't have a Lion King, so I didn't experience that.
Lion King was one of the greatest games of that era. Same with the Aladdin game on Genesis. I don't know why it was different between Super Nintendo and Genesis. I think it was two different dev houses. Excuse me. But the Genesis one had like the more faithful soundtrack and everything. And some of those licensed games back in the 16-bit era were really scary good.
It depends, though. I mean, Star Wars was great, but there was also a licensed game that was called Airwolf, and that was...
I remember
a waste of money, I can tell you.
The Star Wars games on Super Nintendo are an interesting example because anybody who played them can tell you that those games had nothing to do with their namesakes, like at all. Aside from you're playing Luke Skywalker and look, there are thermal detonators. That thing that you fight that looks like Darth Vader, that's like a little miniature Darth Vader head thing, and it's not even actually Darth Vader. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with Super Mario. It hasn't been Super Mario, at least the second one, I think. That has been completely a different game before Nintendo licensed it and put the Mario character into it.
The Doki Panic story is really fascinating. Anybody who isn't familiar with the story of Mario Brothers 2 in America, go look that up, because what was released as Mario 2 here had nothing to do with the franchise at the time.
Yeah.
And they didn't even
Really?
release it in Japan as a Mario game until like years later.
Really?
They re-released Doki Doki Panic as Mario. What did they? Mario USA or something like that, they called it.
I think that was already also shown in one of those documentaries. I don't remember which one. There have been some game documentaries recently coming out in the last 2 years or so, and in one of them that was explained. There was also explained
That's a big one.
I gotta look it up.
The
That and,
Atari
like, the
issue.
ET cartridges.
NTT, yeah, that was also a topic there. That was
God,
cool.
didn't they end up
thank you for
trying to
reminding me.
crowdsource like a whole freaking movie when they I think that was how
Oh, the
they
ET
funded the
yes.
dig to get the
Yes.
ET cartridges out of the landfill. Yeah.
Yes,
And they found them.
Auctioned off the
I mean, they got
cartridges.
them.
They did.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
found them.
Yeah.
They found
It was
like,
not a myth. It really happened.
Yeah, it was true. They buried thousands of freaking ET cartridges, and it was like Mexico or some
Oh.
shit. Like
it was New Mexico. I remember seeing that.
It
and it's
was
like
New
you sit
Mexico?
there
Okay.
And you're like, oh, my brain goes, I wonder if they still play.
Well, a lot of them did. They tried them, and some of them absolutely did. Others were like crushed and completely eroded, but they did find sealed, uncrushed copies of the game in the mess.
Wow.
The fascinating thing is the story behind it, how they got there, because they apparently manufactured more copies of the ET 2600 game than there were BCS. Nice.
That's
than
a
there
new
were
one.
physical Ataris. They made more copies of the game than they could have sold. Period.
Yeah.
So they ended up burying thousands of them.
I mean, just as we are talking about that and about Atari, they did a crowdfunding of their new console, and I funded one. And it's running Linux, just so you know.
Isn't that funny? They made the new micro consoles.
They made controllers with it.
Wait a minute.
There's even the old controller, which they redesigned.
And that's wireless. Yeah. Oh, that is too cool.
Oh, you know, all they did was put a UART transformer in it to get it over the. Oh, come.
Just as we are talking, maybe we are getting here a little bit sidetracked, but doesn't matter, I think.
No, this is all the stuff this is all the stuff that inspired me. Like looking at the original. Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, my lighting here is not that good, but if I pull up the shades, the sun will totally.
You know what? I'm against it. It looks cool and futurish and retro, but where's the rubber gasket?
Yeah,
that rubber gasket was like everything.
You remember Decathlon on Atari, where you had to do like this? Oh man, I had burned my hand here, and I had a hole in my hand. Oh gosh, I remember those times.
Oh my god, there were a few games like that back in the old days.
Do you remember the pedal?
Track and field? Yes.
No. Do you remember the pedal, the turn thingy, turn controller? Lithia was on
that used that
on Twitter. Was just asking. Without telling your age, what is the first game you remember playing? And I was like, let me remember. It was an Atari game, and it was called Warlords, where you had to play with these pedals. But I had to look that up because I didn't know the name anymore, and I didn't know how the controllers were named. And I was like having a hard time finding that game again and a picture of it. But it was there. Google has it.
we need a version of Warlords in VR. Where it's literally, can you imagine 4 players in a full 3D environment? It's a big castle, and each character is standing on their corner of the embattlements, just like in Warlords, except you've got a giant wheel in front of you that you're just rotating.
I mean, it could happen, and that wouldn't be too.
It would be amazing. It would, and you've just got this giant field that moves around your corner when you rotate the big. Come on, it would be great. I'm
sad to say that. Oh, go on.
Chunker,
I was going to say it. Yes.
Did you respond to Lith's post? What was your first video game? Do you remember?
My first. Okay, I can tell you my first console, and this is going to be a bit sad. My first console was an Xbox 360. The first video game,
just that you played.
I mean, it must not be the really first. The first, you remember.
The first one I remember actually is Oregon Trail on the Mac 2.
Nice.
And I remember that being in the room my little brother is in now, and it being in a roll top desk, and the roll top desk couldn't close. But I remember not understanding the game and sitting there just mashing the keyboard and dying. And then further on, it goes into Sonic 2, which I actually have the Genesis in that closet with the game in the box still. That's the one I remember the most, is playing Sonic 2 and hearing the special stage kick in. Oh,
I played Sonic 2 so much. That was one of my favorite 16-bit games.
I remember that where they had it was on the Sega Mega Drive, I think, Sonic 2. And they had one of those consoles in the shopping malls there. And when we were going with school on the day where you're walking around and stuff, and we were going to the big city, and they had one of those malls, I was stuck there for hours playing Sonic on the big screens, playing it all day long. All the others were looking around the city and do sightseeing and stuff. Yeah, and me and the mate, we were stuck playing video games and didn't see any of the other stuff. Well, that's how it goes.
Yeah, and that's where you get most of your memories. Like for me, walking into Toys R Us, seeing the N64 and how they had it where you could play it there. And you would just for hours on end just.
Do you remember the feeling when you were reading those PC or video game magazines? We were looking forward to the new ones and just digging into the pictures. And we were like, oh gosh, I want to have this game, but no, I can't afford it because I don't have the money at that time and stuff. And you were like imagining the complete story that could be behind that single picture and stuff. Oh, that have been great times.
And rereading that magazine, that issue of that magazine over and over and over again, because that was it. That was your connection to what was coming in the gaming world. That next issue of Nintendo Power or Electronics Gaming Monthly or later Next Gen. Like there were so many great magazines that came and went. Game Pro, shit.
Game Informer.
Yeah.
I mean, even Nintendo had a magazine.
Nintendo Power. Yeah.
Yep.
That was,
oh man, and I was so sad because
ended.
There's a game. It's called outside of Germany. It's called Contra, and in Germany it was called Probotector. And I have to admit that Probotector was way cooler than Contra because playing a tech robot shooting down aliens instead of being a mercenary shooting down other people, that's boring. But sci-fi mech, that was cool.
What was the final boss in the original Contra for you guys?
Yeah, in the first one.
For us, it was a big heart.
Yeah, it's same.
It was a big heart for you guys? I was wondering if you could get away with it because of the weirdness in the laws back then.
They just exchanged everything that has been human people with robots or aliens. That's all. I think even robots. The aliens have been the same. And I was able to play the first Probotector or Contra through multiple times when I was young without losing any life. And you can do like the
30 life code. Yeah.
No, without that. I didn't need that.
Right.
And then there's a new game plus mode, so it's a little bit more difficult, and you can replay that. And I played it 5 times in a row, and I was writing down my high score, and I was sending that to Nintendo because in the magazine they were showing the high scores of people, and I was very proud of that, and I was sending that to them, and they replied to me, "Hey, congratulations on that high score,
good job.
But we would need a screenshot." And I was like, "What?" And at that time, a screenshot is like a photo,
Yeah. Or a VHS recording. Yeah.
And I didn't have that. So and I was like,
my best. Dude, same for me. Of course, when I first started playing it, I used the 30-man code to learn the game. But I eventually got to the point as well where I could just practically blindfolded run the whole thing without getting hit. And it was like 13 runs was my record. And I ended up having to stop there because, like you said, it's a new game plus thing where it got slightly harder with every one. The first guy became, I shit you not, it was 20 guys or something like that moving in this huge clump. And it actually hard froze the system. maybe it wasn't 13 playthroughs. I can't remember exactly how many playthroughs it was, but yeah, that first clump of dudes, and every one of them, they were all blinking in and out because it couldn't show all of them at once. Yeah, as soon as I started jumping over them, dude starts flipping, and then the game just died.
This is something, the next generation after us is never going to get to deal with. I mean, as we start plunging into this VR world where we're playing games like Beat Saber, Synth Riders. I'm trying to think of a game. Skyrim, Fallout. Those kind of have replay value, but not at the level of something like Synth Riders or Beat Saber. The next generation isn't going to have those memories of playing through a game 50 times because you didn't have the money to buy the next game, and it's kind of sad.
I counter that there are less masochistic gamers these days, though.
True.
There are far fewer people who are willing to bang their faces.
There are two things indeed. There are two things indeed. Have you tried today to play one of those games again, like Contra? Like today, I cannot even beat the first level anymore. It's not possible. I can with some training, but I was like, back then I was like, yeah, give me the controller after 6 months and I can still play it. But today I need the 30 life cheat code to get through the first level, kind of. And
it's actually the reverse for me. I was able to go back, play Sonic 2 and beat it. Whereas a kid, I was never able to beat it.
Okay, that's different. But Super Protector at least. Emeralds?
Have you done Supersonic?
I did actually, but then that's right.
Yeah, but just today, when I try to play this, I have to retrain that because it's not working anymore for me. Those games have been like frigging hard. And today, those games, it depends a bit. It's coming back. Games are getting harder again.
Did you try to play it on native hardware or like emulated?
It was, I have the native hardware and I tried it and emulated as well as on the new mini consoles, the remakes, which are feeling kind of the same. They even have the same hardware issues where pixel sprites were flashing because hardware wasn't able to deal with it back then. And now the new hardware is emulating it just fine. It's doing the same issues. I tried it, but it's tricky.
We have to deal with like controller latency issues that don't exist on those consoles because that's direct analog input to those things, whereas now there's an entire interpreter layer in between your controller and there's a USB host controller and the software drivers, and then hey, you're finally getting to the game. And there's a few frames of latency that we're just never going to get rid of. That's why I was asking, because and I don't even notice it because the game mostly feels right, but something is off. And when you're playing at that level that you're talking about, where you're just, like the hangar comes to mind, right? With the rows of claws that come down and you've got that one space in between each of them that you can stand in, and it's practically pixel perfect or you're going to get hit by the edge of the claws. You can feel it in areas like that where the timing matters.
With all the indie games that have had their like rise in the last years, it's coming a little bit back. The level of how hard it is to beat those games, especially with the roguelikes and stuff, they're pretty dang hard, and you have to train them now. So we're going back to that a little bit.
Right.
And
absolutely. And games like Rust, the survival games, right?
Yeah, those are a little bit different, but they are getting harder again.
Brutally masochistic.
Well,
like you have to hate yourself to enjoy those games.
There has been quite a time.
Never mind.
There has been quite a time where the games were taking you by hand and make the games very comfortable to use. So games have been more approachable. I mean, that was totally correct. I mean, now we have a lot of people that are playing. Like, I think half of humanity is playing games, if not even more. And before it was like, those gamers are the little nerds. It's a niche. But that has turned. And I think now they can go back to those tricky games because people are still playing them. It's not like, we need to spread more.
That's true. Well, and all the casual gamers live here.
Yeah.
So,
or if you're like a pro gamer, you live
Sorry,
here.
I was holding up a smartphone when I said
what is that?
Here.
Yes. I couldn't see that, Spirit.
And if he's holding up a smartphone, I'm holding up a calculator. Oh, come on, focus. A CAS.
TI.
CAS. This is a color screen. This baby is awesome. But no, it's
else loaded up Zelda games and other ROM hacks and stuff like that on their TI calculators in high school.
Who else can still do it now but play Pokemon Emerald in color? Yo.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that wasn't an option on like a TI-82.
Yeah,
but I mean, like,
I missed
Pokemon
that.
Yellow. Oh, I played Pokemon Yellow.
I didn't play any of the Pokemons, even though I got one for the Switch now, but I haven't played them.
Oh, I did.
That's still my
Let's not
jam.
go down the Pokemon rabbit hole right now, because
we should turn a little bit back to the topic now, I think.
Yeah,
so like
VR.
To VR, and
I was gonna pull it into VR and gaming, yeah.
Yeah, VR and streaming in general, because one topic we still have that we might chime in here. Chime in, that's wrong. What do I want to say? That we might put in here is we want to talk a little bit about Stadia once more. We haven't talked about, we have that put on the topic because we were pre-cast talking a little bit about that. And Grin mentioned he had one. But Spirit, you want to chime in?
Oh, no. I have a question, and going back to the latency topic about how nowadays we're all emulating everything. And the hardware layer is actually emulating glitches and problems. Latency with emulators is still there. How's the latency on something like Stadia? How does that play for something
it's
like
worse?
It's worse.
I cannot confirm that.
Okay, so factually, all right, we're going to approach this from two different angles.
Okay.
Factually, yes. Scientifically, yes. Empirically, yes. There is latency. It's there. There has to be. The way the controller works is it connects over Wi-Fi and hits their network. And then all that image data is processed and streamed down to you. Okay. So inherently, there is latency in that system. But I'll let Corbin finish from here.
So I have, because Stadia for me as a Linux gamer is one way to play some games that are not available for Linux natively or emulated or whatever. Not emulated, but played through a transition layer like Wine or Proton. Especially if those games have have anti-cheat mechanism or DRM mechanism and they are not playable for me, Stadia is a good way to play those. Or if my hardware is not good enough. For example, I know some Linux gamers, they said, I totally know that Cyberpunk won't run on my hardware, but playing that through Stadia will work. Also, I'm a big fan of Stadia because they are running on Linux servers. Hey, so I want to support them there a little bit because that means more Linux developers are needed. And if more Linux developers are there and they're maybe not working for Stadia anymore, they still want to I was
going to say, let's leave the developer topic out of this conversation. That's going to be a
little bit. I want to mention it at least. So yeah, I'm a fan of Stadia there. So they have a little bit bonus, at least from my side. But as I have a fiber connection, you have to play Stadia through a Chromium-based browser. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And at least for Chrome or Chromium, there is an extension that's called Stadia Plus. And with that extension, I was able to force the codec, because there are two codecs available. That's the VP9 codec as well as the X264 codec.
Okay.
As well as the resolution, because for me somehow it didn't work. It always was sending me one codec and one resolution, which was 720p, no matter what I did. Excuse me. And with that extension, I was able to force 1080p. And also what that extension does is showing you the latency that you have to their servers. And when I was playing that in the beginning, I had a latency about 10 milliseconds. With the jitter buffer of like 30 milliseconds. And that's not much. So now as I have fiber, and they have probably servers here in Europe or even in Germany, now I have a latency of down to 2 milliseconds. Wow. And I mean, that's like the next hop or so. And with that,
I do want to point out, sorry to interrupt. I do want to point out that is just network latency. That doesn't consider like your input latency or anything.
Yeah, that's probably what the jitter buffer is a little bit about.
Well, and on top of that,
but still, that's down to 25 milliseconds, which is still not much.
Which, if
most people deal with more than that in multiplayer gaming, right?
Yeah, and
I was going to take it a step further. Sorry, Corbin. In the US, the next hop isn't 2 milliseconds; it's 4 to 6. And so, hearing 2 millisecond next hop, I think Stadia is going to be better in Europe.
It depends. It's shifting between 2 and 4. Sometimes it's 10, but then I guess I get a Stadia server that's further away. But I don't know. Maybe my ISP has a good peering with the Google service. I don't know what's going on there, but it's between 2 and 4 milliseconds. Mostly 3, but that's like, what the hell? It's like next to me.
Yeah,
and that's still. I'm a big fan of Everspace, as you might know. And Everspace is a game where input latency, you feel that. You have to aim with your mouse and get the enemies. And I played that recently on Stadia, and it feels like native for me. Maybe I'm too old for realizing that, but latency is very, very good. So it's an alternative, at least.
Have you only really used it on your PC? You haven't used the... So when I was using Stadia, I canceled mine at the beginning of the year. I had Stadia Pro. Last year they were giving away bundles with Chromecast Ultras and their
Cyberpunk was one of those bundles.
So, this is just if you signed up for Stadia Pro. For a free month of Stadia Pro, they would give you this for free. Like, it cost me nothing out of pocket.
Yeah.
And so I jumped on it. I'm like, what the hell? I'll get a Chromecast Ultra for free out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I experimented with Stadia in all of the other ways that they were trying to market it, right? I played with it in 4K on my big screen here. And my experience with that, while I didn't do any competitive gaming, damn near comparable to any other game console. It felt fine. Latency was not noticeable. Same thing with the mobile application, to be perfectly honest. And what's really interesting is same controller, right? Like, I literally just picked up my phone and loaded up the application, and it's all cool. We see this controller's on your Wi-Fi. Let's go. Ha 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 ha. And I was playing games like Panzer Dragoon and stuff like that on there. It's absolutely like Destiny 2. Just, pull it up on my phone and go. And it was really, I liked the idea that I could so easily transition from platform to platform, that I could be playing at home, I could be on the road, and even if I didn't have the gamepad with me, there were decent virtual on-screen controllers, and I could at least, manage characters and stuff, if not actually try to play the game like that. Overall, I was impressed with the service. The big thing it's lacking is ray tracing features, obviously, because like you said, it's Linux.
That's coming, though. That's on the horizon.
But I mean...
are they still going to do their data center upgrade?
I mean, it's a Vulkan specification thing, and they just released the ray tracing specification for Vulkan. And we see that now coming to games. So, for example, just recently, Proton has been updated with the experimental branch, or Wine has been updated. And now we can have, for example, Control, which has ray tracing, and we can have that now on Linux. So it just will take a little bit of time until that makes it to the Stadia service, but then you will have ray tracing there as well.
So I think that's the next thing we have to talk about, since we've been touching on Stadia, and it's the fact that Google is pulling a very Google-like move. And since the service has been floundering, rather than doing their best to prop it up, they had a number of big names, including people like Hideo Kojima, lined up to do exclusive Stadia titles. And they just, I think it was in the last 6 or 8 weeks, canceled the bulk of this stuff. They have all but given up entirely on Stadia at this point.
Well, my question is, why not? Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's disappointing.
Sorry,
I've been talking a lot. Please.
No, you're fine. No. You're putting great insight in. My question is, why not pull what, in the past, a lot of their dying, Their dying projects, with the exception of one that I used to use all the time, which was Wave, which was their RSS feed reader, they just slowly let it die, and then it comes to the end of life. Why not this time instead? Because Steam, we have the ability, if I leave my tower on, I can take my phone with me, and anywhere in the world, I could hook to her, and I could play any game I want. And I've actually done it. I've played Cyberpunk without ray tracing, because to me, the 2070 Super is able to play it with ease, even over the network, LAN-wise, not WAN. And it played fine. It was playable on the cell network. But why not release the ability for us to take that operating system or whatever they're doing on that Linux server with Stadia and build our own little branch?
I mean, that's what you...
Stadia.
There are three things now on the market that do this more or less. So there's Stadia. But Stadia is more or less like a console, to be honest.
Okay.
You buy the games on that console. You buy the games for Stadia, and if Stadia is gone, that game is gone.
The games are gone. Yeah.
That's the only thing. There's GeForce Now. GeForce Now is a little bit different. It's also a streaming service, but like Stadia. But you buy the games on the other stores. You buy it on Steam. You buy it on Epic. You buy it not on Battle.net anymore. I think they are not there anymore, because at the beginning on GeForce Now everything was playable, but then publishers took off games from there. I don't really know why, because you have to buy the games nonetheless. So I'm not sure. Your mic is muted, Crin.
Yeah, I still don't understand the reasoning behind that. That was a really bad move.
Yeah, that's really strange. But let me continue.
We should circle back to that, because I have thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's strange. You cannot play everything there anymore, but still a lot. And you buy those games on Steam, Epic, Origin, and Uplay, I think. And you can play them then on GeForce Now. And there's what Steam is doing with the Steam Remote Play. With the Steam, is it called Remote Play?
So well.
Not the friend invite. Not the friend invite remote.
The shared libraries is different.
That's different. No, I mean the streaming thing.
Playing it.
It was in-home streaming before.
Steam Link.
The Steam Link thingy.
Right. And
where
now
you can
it's just remote play, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, remote play. Is it remote play or something like that?
It's remote play.
Steam running. Those other and that you can host more or less on your own, and that service isn't bad either. I mean, what they are doing, the compression, the latency and stuff. So if you use that in your own network, the latency is very, very low. It's like instant. I've played like Super Meat Boy with that. I tried that, and it's working really great. And if you can have that over a decent internet connection, I don't know what Stadia is doing there. They're doing it a little bit better, I think, because that was very interesting. Let me just do that anecdote. They were reaching out to id Software for porting Doom to Stadia. And in the end, I mean, id Software was like, yeah, we can do, we are familiar with Linux. We can do a Linux port easily. It's still not released officially, but okay, it's for Stadia, okay. And they had no issues with porting that and optimizing that. And Stadia was like, yeah, okay, play the game, test it for us. And people were like, okay, we can measure from the latency how far the server must be away and stuff. And they were toying around with that, and they could say, yeah, okay, it's just like a few kilometers away. So they were playing that, and Stadia was half a year optimizing things, and then id Software was back with Stadia together, and they had their best player playing Doom 2016, I think. And the only thing, because they were asking him, so how do you feel about the game? And he was like, yeah, that's definitely our Doom. The only thing is, it feels like somebody didn't turn the... for televisions, they have this game mode where the update refresh rate of the television is better. And he said, yes, it just feels like somebody had to did not enable the game mode on the television. That's all. And that's already like 2 or 3 years ago. So they improved there even more, I guess, in the meantime. So I think technically wise, Stadia isn't that bad, really. And those are the three streaming services that are available right now.
I looked it up. It's still called Steam Link. They just got rid of the official hardware. They're not selling that cool. In that box was really freaking cool, by the way.
I have
a little gigabit.
Own one.
Yeah, I still have one.
Yeah.
I have
It's
two.
sitting outside. It works amazingly. I can never get that dongle, the Steam controller to pair without the dongle.
What, really? But it has built-in dongles, right? You don't need an extra dongle.
I couldn't get it to communicate with my Steam controller. I sat there for 2 solid hours before I said, forget it, and just plugged the dongle in.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Brutal.
That's too bad. Yeah, but we wanted to go back to GeForce Now and pulling off games from there, Crin.
I don't know if they were afraid that NVIDIA was going to try and stand up their own video game service or something to compete with Steam and Epic and Origin and all of those. I do not know. It's fascinating. It was a power move. And they all flinched at the same time, which is why I was so blown away by it. I don't know if it was just one of them going, well, if they're going to do it, we're going to do it too, or what. Because, I agree with you. There wasn't anything clear about why they would.
No, it just happened. It just happened. Yeah. And NVIDIA said they're in talks with them, and some games came back, not all of them. But in fact, the publisher don't have any disadvantage. The people still have to buy the games from the publishers or the stores or whatever. It's just you're not installing it locally. You're just playing it through a browser. That's all.
Publishers still flex. Well, and I think that's it right there. I think it's the multi-platform facet of it. They want to be able to sell that game to you 3 times. 5 times. Look at fucking Skyrim. There are people out there that have bought that game 10 different times. I have purchased it on 3 different platforms.
I bought
3.
Platform 1.
Yep.
Platform 2.
Yep.
Wait for it.
Platform 3.
There you go. That's how you do it.
Oh yeah, and we will do it.
And I don't regret it. I don't.
All cross-buy.
I do not regret it.
We love our fans, but
I bought Everspace more than 3 times. Those are the physical versions. I have it on Steam. I have it on GOG. I have it on Stadia.
I think I've purchased Halo Reach, Halo 3 5 times over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one game that I purchased across platform. No. Yes, actually, I have purchased Minecraft several times. But no, I purchased Stardew Valley on the Mac store, on the Steam store, and on the Android store, and on the PS Vita. Okay? That's how you know you're fanatical about farming right there.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, I think. You're not
shit.
You are, of course, supporting the publisher a little bit as well, but also the developer. And if you're a fan,
but we're forgetting how we ended up on this topic in the first place, and that's because NVIDIA. And that's entirely my point. Like, I think that market is why they shut that service down so hard. And if you look at Steam Link, a lot of people don't realize this because they don't use their remote play features that often. There are a number of games in your library that when you try and use Steam Link outside of your home network, it won't let you. It flat out will not let you do it.
It will tell you, I cannot do this.
Yep. But if you're on your local LAN, it'll let you use the feature.
I haven't played Steam over remote play that much yet.
What the hell was the name of it? There is an application called like Moonlight or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's oh goodness.
It used to be Limelight. It's Moonlight now.
Parsec.app. What's that?
So Moonlight is real interesting because it's an open source implementation of NVIDIA's own protocols that they use for like the Shield and stuff like that, right?
Yes. I will be right back. Continue on.
You can just use it on anything, and that gives you access to like your entire Steam library and stuff, except you don't have to worry about those restrictions from the publishers. You can play anything. So
where is Spirit gone?
He said he had to go AFK for a moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Live just said we should mention Parsec.app. It's like TeamViewer for gaming at no latency. Okay, I don't know about that yet, but
Oh, Parsec.
have you used that? Do you know what that is?
I haven't used it. I've heard of it.
I have not heard of that yet. I might have a look at that. I mean, I think I'm a little bit afraid. There are two things. So far, my fears have not been confirmed, because I was a little bit afraid that, like, if those streaming services, because it's easy to use, you just pay a few bucks. It depends on, for Stadia, it's like if you don't have the Pro subscription, and you mostly don't need it if you're not using 4K monitor or television or so, then if you have a tablet, 1080p is probably enough, even though it can do more, but you won't really see the difference. Maybe you do, but I think it's not too bad if you are at 1080p. So for Stadia, it's like you can use the service for free. You just have to buy the games there. For
Right.
GeForce Now, it's different. You have the games already. You bought them already, but you pay for the service to play them remotely. And either way, it's convenient because you can do the math. How much money do you have to pay for your rig at home? $2,000 or so, depending on where you're going. If you are high-end hardware or not that high, but let's say $1,000 to $2,000, something in between. And how long can you pay the subscription for that? And do not buy the hardware. So because a television, mostly everybody has, or a phone or a tablet, and being able to play on those devices, I was a little bit afraid that PC gaming will die pretty soon with that. But apparently that doesn't happen, especially with VR, because VR over streaming services, that's probably physically not possible because of the latency. There you need way less latency with updating and stuff, because there you will probably for sure get motion sick because it has delay and stuff. So for VR, it has to be local, at least for now. I don't know if there's a physical possibility in the future that it will ever work. But for pancake games,
we are going there. Do not doubt for a second that you're going to have a wireless HMG with whatever the successor to 5G is in it, and everything's going to be rendered in the freaking cloud, and your HMD is just going to be a dumb terminal. Don't doubt that we're going there, because that's just the next phase of digital rights management. Like, it's gonna happen.
Well, it does have its advantages. The game developers don't have to care about cheaters anymore, because you can't cheat anymore. You have no access to the software at all because it's not local.
That's one thing I'm most scared of, is when we get to that point where where the HMD is just a dumb terminal, and we're sitting there going, but if you think about it, though, when we do get to that point, it's going to make replacing the device easier. I mean, I'm pretty, with every device I own, I treat it with somewhat of kid gloves. But imagine for someone like my brother, who has gone through, oh goodness, that tells you how many cell phones he's gone through and how many laptops. It's going to make that cheaper.
Yeah.
So, but it is going to suck for digital.
The power user segment is going to go away. Like Corbin was saying, that was a real fear a decade ago, right?
Mm-hmm,
We've been pretty comfortable, but the fact is the direction manufacturing is going, this kind of machine is definitely a boutique item. You know, it is any gaming PC above even $800 is a stretch. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a reason why game consoles are at that $500 price point. It's what the market can bear. A lot of people, that's still a lot of money, and that's difficult to accomplish. And because of the direction of where computing is going, all of manufacturing is flowing that way, and pretty soon it's just not going to make sense to make this stuff anymore.
And that's one reason why I think the Quest 2 and I would say more so the Quest 2 had such an adoption rate, because it is in that $500 price range. But then for people like us, especially Crin and Corbin and all those who play with these devices that are not the Quest, it introduced a layer of
It divided the market.
Yeah, but it also made it harder to help people. At least for me, when someone comes in and goes, I don't know about you two. I don't know if either of you own a Quest 1 or 2. I don't know.
Doesn't work on Linux.
Really?
No,
you would think it does because it's Android at its core. It's Linux at its very core.
I mean, the standalone thing, of course, that works. But if you want to use the link cable to connect it to your PC, no, you're out of luck.
Really?
Because in the beginning, when Oculus was starting off, they had, with the DK1 and DK2, they had everything working on Linux. And then Facebook jumped in and, we don't need that. Bye-bye. And since then, we might be lucky and get support for all the headsets, even with OpenXR again. But that's still out.
Yeah, do applications like Virtual Desktop work on the Steam version?
I have no idea.
Or the Linux version? Good grief.
I don't know. I have not tried Virtual Desktop. I don't own an Oculus headset. They don't sell in Germany anymore because
really
I
Facebook,
forgot. Yeah,
Facebook is like, we don't need the market if we cannot harvest the data, and as we are not really allowed because the Germans are a little bit picky about their data protection laws.
So, Corbin, do you guys allow pew-pews?
Pew-pews? What's pew-pew?
Yeah, so when I get in trouble...
Their firearms laws are a little arcane.
You mean the murder simulator games? Yeah, that
would I get in... No. Would I get in trouble for having my soda can launcher over there?
Oh, like so paintball and stuff?
Can you build a potato cannon there and not get in trouble?
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't know.
I will look into that. I might be immigrating to Germany. No, I'm just kidding.
Come over. Okay, yeah. Bavaria is a very nice country.
You're talking about a country that their version of Unreal Tournament, I'm staring at the camera like I didn't blind the thing. We're talking about a country that their version of Unreal Tournament has freaking robots in it, and instead of blood, it's nuts and bolts and oil.
Hey, I'll take it.
It changed a lot in the recent years, to be honest. I mean, they mentioned it.
They changed the...
Yeah, they said like, the zombie has arrived at the society or so. So zombie games and stuff. That's if you are there's one game. It's called Hatred, I think, where you're really running crazy and shooting people just because of shooting people. That's still a no-go. But the other games like zombie games and gore games, that's mostly not an issue anymore. That has been a few years ago.
Games like Postal and Manhunt.
Yeah, probably Manhunt would be tricky to get through the USK. The USK is the authority that is taking care that those games are suitable for younger audience and stuff. And they can say, this is not suitable for Germans at all. They can say this is for people that are older than 18 or than 16 or 12 or like Peggy. And they made sure as well in the last years. I mean, we had also the issue that it was not allowed at all to have any Nazi signs in games. But even that changed a little bit because if it's not like used as propaganda, but it's used in a historical environment, then it's okay. So if you're not using it as propaganda, because that was totally prohibited at all. And that changed even as well, because in movies, it was allowed to have those signs. And then that slowly got merged into games as well. So we are maturing. We are,
Well, I was gonna say the reason I was bringing up, the Quest 2 and it being in that 500 market is because it's created a problem, at least for Beat Saber streamers, of helping people when they come in and they're like, "Oh, how did you get this? Like the custom sabers or this or this or this or this or this or this." You have to sit, and the first question is always, "Are you on PC or are you on Quest?"
Yeah,
and it's created such a fracture. That was the word. A fracture in the community, especially when Beat Saber introduced crossplay, multiplay. That's when things started even have become rougher. Convoluted is the right term because of custom songs, and there's a part of me that is really hoping for the day we get to that dumb terminal, but still have people like us who are able to play in this niche market and mod everything to be beautiful. But then there's also this fear of mine of when we get to that dumb terminal point, if you're not on that dumb terminal ship, you miss out.
Yeah, that's the thing with those streaming services. Stadia modding it's just not possible. I mean, if they don't have anything built in where you can like Steamworks or so, where you can officially, you have an API or a work suite or framework or whatever that allows you to mod the game officially, that's probably not possible on game streaming services at all.
Well, that was my question of why doesn't Google just let us take our own and create our own little Stadia? And you brought up Steam Link. The thing is with Steam Link is you still need a GUI, and I'm fairly certain with Stadia, their servers don't need a GUI. So,
I
no,
think
probably
it'd be
not.
cool if they open sourced the Stadia tech, but I think honestly the biggest reason we're not seeing mods in those markets yet is cheaters, for one.
Yeah, but
cheaters make it complicated, but it's a lack of support. It's time versus money versus is it really worth the effort to implement these abilities, right? And I think Corbin was going to say some games are starting to.
No, it's just that those streaming services are pretty new. So it probably needs a certain rate of adoption that people demand modding. And I don't know how many people are using streaming services. Those are all, I think, vanguards, pioneers, or whatever. So not that many people are demanding mods for those games yet. But probably, eventually even, that might be a topic later for Stadia and stuff. So people want to have an official way to mod those games, because the modding scene is awesome. We know that from Beat Saber and Synth Riders or whatever. The modding scene is helping to improve those games and the experiences playing those games.
It's that kind of content and the passion of the community around it and just the ability to be able to do those things that I think has been keeping PC gaming going for so long. You know?
Very much.
I mean, that was even
as long.
Sorry, that was even a topic from the last Steam Dev Days, where Steam was like, let your community help you building your games. It's not early access only. It's like, give them tools, workshop thingies. And I since then, we've seen a lot of games opening their games for modding with official modding tools. And people have created amazing worlds, levels, assets.
Yeah.
I mean, did anybody
Steam early access program, right? Like, how many amazing games have shown up because of early access?
Have any of you played the Half-Life Alyx mod BioShock? The Return to Rapture thing yet?
I'm sorry.
Hello?
What?
Hello?
Wait, I'll send this. Wait,
What?
I want a link right now.
Oh, that's another thing we need to talk about. The insanely huge modding community that has sprung up around Half-Life Alyx that nobody fucking talks about.
Yes,
it's incredible.
And I haven't even finished releasing all the Source 2 dev tools yet, and people are doing some crazy shit, and I didn't even know about this BioShock. Oh my god!
Yes, links, please.
It's in the workshop.
Yeah, seriously,
it's in the workshop.
And moreover, where the hell is my live support for Source 2? Like, this has to be a thing now.
Dad,
I just played the first level of the BioShock mod, and it's a 7-chapter complete game in the BioShock world, mixed together with Half-Life. So you have the enemies of Half-Life, you have the gravity glass of Half-Life Alyx, but you are playing in Rapture. And without modding, not possible. Not even imaginable. It's incredible.
Well, and dude, Death of Stadia, right there. They so limited that service, and they're like, well, we're just going to have these premium AAA titles. It's like, okay, so you've got a bunch of old games, and that is what most of their content is dated games, not just like 5-year-old games or whatever. No, we're talking 20-plus-year-old games kicked over from the big old school AAA publishers. Here's some content. Never did they think, hey, let's let the indie developers go nuts on this thing.
Right.
I mean, there's one more thing I want to add to Stadia, because recently, which is last Friday, I had a pretty bad experience with Stadia because they changed something on their back end. And for me, it was not possible anymore to get 1080p. Whatever I did.
Really?
Yeah, with the Stadia Plus extension, it was easy. I could select the codec as well as the resolution. I could say, press the apply button, reload the page, and then I had 1080p. At that evening, I wanted to play Everspace, stream it, and I had no chance getting that to 1080p anymore. Whatever I did, before I was able to get it via the incognito mode of Chrome, didn't work. Changing the settings didn't work. Whatever I did, clearing cookies, no chance on getting that. And then I was reading on GitHub that they apparently changed some variables to read-only mode. So they have to detect now what connection you have. And I have a fiber connection with 300 Mbits. It's fast enough. Come on, Stadia.
Yeah.
But apparently, because I'm using Linux, and we don't really have hardware decoding in Chrome. It's coming though. I wasn't able to get that. And it was I gave up on it on that evening. And I reached out to Google Stadia on Twitter. On Twitter, I gave feedback. I'm in their Discord and I was asking and stuff. And on Twitter, they were answering even. And they were like, hey, thanks for reaching out. We would like to dig into that for you. So did you try this and that? All the standard things. Did you set Google DNS servers? Did you make sure you have not your firewall blocking anything? Are you on the latest stable Chrome version? All the stuff you have to go through to get to the, it's like, did you try to turn it off and on again thing? Yeah, but you have to go through the steps before you get to the next level of support. And if you hello, I am a professional. I'm a highly trained professional. Something like that. That doesn't work. You have to go through all the steps. So I was going through all the steps. And now they want to reach out to me via email because we reached a point where I went through all their suggestions. But I mean, they were getting back to me, and that's not that bad because everybody who was talking about Stadia was like, yeah, the customer support is bad. I cannot really confirm that yet. We need to see if there is a solution for me. And I'm waiting now that they reach out to me via mail. But as I'm on Linux, as I'm a tinkerer, I was tinkering around. And there is now a way where you can enable Vulkan in Google Chrome. You just need a patched library that it works with the NVIDIA drivers. But now I have 1080p again.
Nice.
Huh.
So I didn't tell them yet because I want to see how they solve this without me tinkering everything around it to get it working.
Yeah. Without the tinkering, how did you solve it?
How to solve that on their end. I'll have to see how that works. But I was pretty surprised that they answered and they were reaching out to the people that have problems because I think they take it serious. Even though they have shut down their own gaming development department for Stadia because game development is tough. We all know that. And if Google is like, okay, we can more focus on the hardware and the stuff instead of developing our own games from scratch. I don't know if they have any experience with really developing games, but we saw Amazon developing games and they failed miserably with their service.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a bad move of them saying we shut down the game development side and focus on contracting external studios, getting exclusives maybe, and focusing on the hardware.
Exactly, yeah.
And a lot of people were like, okay, they are shutting down the department, whole Stadia is shutting down, wait for it. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, to be honest.
I'm trying to find the list of other developers here, because Hideo's the only one I remember right off the top of my head, but there were several others that are big names that everybody would recognize. Like, they had several big AAA titles that were in various stages of development that were going to be Stadia exclusive. And I mean, the fact that they cut off dev like that so completely and totally.
I think they had some severe issues because, for example, the Terraria dev was also saying, okay, my game is not coming to Stadia anymore. They shut down my Google account because of weird issues. And he was not able within like a month to get that issue solved. And he was like, okay, screw you. I'm pulling off my contract with you. I'm not publishing on Stadia anymore. We have now Stadia port of Terraria. So that got settled as well. And that means they took care of that issue. And that shows me they are enthusiastic about the Stadia streaming service.
I am super dubious just because of what happened over the last 6 months, right? Because we had multiple promotions through the tail end of last year where they were giving away both the controller and Chromecast Ultras, which is just crazy to me.
There was even a new deal, right? There was a new deal with the new Resident Evil also?
Yeah. And they've been, I guess they are still giving them away. And like you said earlier, they had the promotion with Cyberpunk where if you bought Cyberpunk on Stadia, they would send you a free controller and a Chromecast Ultra.
Yeah. I took that offer.
And then you did? See, I got mine from the one that they did previous to that. I don't remember what the stipulation was. I think it was something like, since I was a YouTube Premium subscriber or something, they sent the thing to me. And it was an offer for 3 free months of Stadia Pro. And the kicker was if I signed up for the free Stadia Pro, they would send me the kit with the controller.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
And the Chromecast Ultra. So I was just all...
Spirit wants to say something.
Done.
How do you get those offers, man? I've been sitting over here. I'm seeing it on Reddit. I don't get any of that. I've been a YouTube Premium subscriber, Google Play Music subscriber before that.
Dude, it showed up in my email. You may have missed it. I don't know.
All right,
a lot of that stuff goes to my junk mail. If you want mine, it's yours, dude. I canceled my Stadia Pro thing, and the controller's just been sitting here gathering dust.
No, I want the Ultra. I want the Ultra, but
I'll send you the Chromecast Ultra with it, man. I'm not using it.
Yeah, I'll ping you. But no, seriously, made a good point. Seriously, in Life's chat, made a good point about Amazon building a VR HMD. When do you think? And this ties in with Stadia. You were talking about how Google focusing on hardware. At what point do you think, because the next Pixel, I believe the Pixel 6? Google's funky with numbers? I mean, I could tell you all the Android stuff off the top of my head. I can go through all what they were. At what point?
Yeah, the next one's the 6.
Okay. So what's special about that is they're building their own chip.
Right. I heard chip. They just announced. So that I find curious too. And it is interesting that you're going that direction. Google's got to be on line to make their own MR glasses or AR glasses or something, right?
Yes,
they have to.
Yes, they have to be.
The sweet spot for that market segment is going to be $99 or $199. It's going to be right around the same point as smartwatches.
Yep.
And Facebook is fucking there. Apple is there. I'll bet you Google is probably damn close. And the Amazon thing, I find it fascinating. Seriously's right. Where's Amazon in this space?
Yeah.
They're murderers. Absolute fucking muggers in the tablet space.
Right.
They just came in and took it. And nobody even freaking talks about the fact that they move 10 times more tablets than anybody else now.
And even generational jumps. Think about it. I've got a Kindle Fire HD2 that I use for stream. It was given to me for free because they upgraded. So the generation jumps is doing what Google did back in the early 2010, 2015, into that era with their tablet jumps, the Nexus 5, 7, 9,
Have you seen
and then
what
10.
Amazon's doing with the kids' tablets and stuff? They have these cheap tablets that they can flip for almost nothing, that they offer these cheap refurb programs on because, of course, kids are going to destroy their tablets. And they're churning out these garbage bottom bin tablets because kids don't care as long as they can play Angry Birds and watch YouTube. Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah. Well, no, not even YouTube. They're watching they're watching Amazon Prime. So at what point?
And Netflix and
And when are we going to get an Amazon?
A huge kid segment. That one's out of control.
True, but YouTube Amazon and
they have the YouTube Kids app as well.
Amazon and Google don't like each other.
No.
They hate each other.
None of them like each other.
Oh well, Amazon and Apple, or Google and Apple have a wishy-washy love-hate sort of relationship.
That whole thing's been fascinating for a
while. I know. But going back to the headset, when do you think we're going to see a Google headset? Because we're hearing rumors about Apple. We know Facebook's making some form of AR. They own Oculus. When do you think we're going to see a Google? And when do you think we're going to see an Amazon? Not Amazon hardware, Amazon branded.
I mean, Google just didn't they I don't know, with Google Cardboard, wasn't there something going on?
Google Cardboard just ended.
They ended, yeah, but probably because they have something new in the horizon. So
that's what I was thinking with their
maybe.
chip design.
I mean, just not educated guess at all. But why do you cancel stuff? Because you have something new on the horizon. I mean, there have been new
the efforts of their dev teams. Yeah.
yeah. And it's also, too, Wise Owl points out in Life's chat that Google Glass is dead. And in fact, I got a chance about 4 years back to try on one of the pre-production pairs. That thing was clear. Like, I could read the text with ease. So if Google does something like that,
they have something on the horizon, probably for sure. They're just cutting off the old ends, so they don't have to maintain it and can focus on the new stuff and put the free resources that have been taken care of the old things to the new one. It might be a little bit out still, but I think VR is something, or AR or whatever, that's something people are interested in. It's fascinating as hell. I see that again and again. People are like, yeah, I've tried Google Cardboard. I know what VR is. No, you don't. Try this headset. And then it was like, okay, oh yes, you were right. I didn't know what VR is.
That's what started my VR trip was Google
Cardboard.
Yep.
Yeah,
I watched the Blue Angels. I watched the Blue Angels flying with my phone like this, going, "Oh my god, it's so real!"
Yeah, it's just the glimpse into VR.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god, there's a plane wing right there.
For me, man. Like, straight up, Raven Dark got a DK1. And I got to play Team Fortress 2 with a DK1 in the early hacky phase. And being able to look over my shoulder to acquire targets was such a pivotal moment in my mind. It was huge. But then Google Cardboard hit, and very much the same. That was my own personal first experience with it. I got a hold of a Razer Hydra, and I had, the USB link over to the PC and everything. So I had ghetto early 3DOF going on, and it was a revelation. It really was. But, so GeoSim brought up Daydream.
Indeed.
And Daydream's another fascinating one that it was supposed to be the iteration of Google Cardboard. It was supposed to be Cardboard 2. And they let that burn faster than anything I've ever seen. Like, that was Pixel 3 era when Daydream hit, and it did not survive Pixel 3 era. It was done by the time Pixel 4 hit.
Most of their AR
that was around the same time Samsung was experiencing with their higher end versions of Cardboard, like Gear VR and things like that. Which Gear VR was a really neat concept.
And even into, was it this?
The problem.
I think it's this one. The Note 8.
Daydream and Cardboard are the problem. I do not think Google is going to be a Valve level player in the future of augmented reality or whatever's happening. I don't think they're going to be a Facebook level player. I think they are going to come out with something that is borderline groundbreaking, something that is going to inspire people, and then they're going to leave it in the fucking dirt again. That's what I think is going to happen.
But think about this, though. Think about this. Think about how
open it up to the community, and then they're just going to be like, "Fuck it, we're ADD. We've got other things to do."
But I mean, that's the reason why
we got more fascinating things to work on,
right? And that's why I love Google.
See what's in our labs, guys.
and that's why I love Google. They'll make a product same as Samsung. Samsung with the Note series, they'll just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Next thing you know, we've got the Notes kicking around everywhere.
The Z Flips.
Yeah, they're still growing. Z
Flip so bad.
I know someone in my town who has one, and I saw it, and my brain went,
Oh my! It is such a cool phone. But anyway,
when Google develops their chip, and I think we won't see it until probably the Pixel 7. But when we see a Google headset, it is going to be an explosion, very brand new, and Google just kicked on. So if you get a response, I apologize.
You might be right. Like
we'll
totally,
see. Yeah.
Because where the paradigm's going, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what Facebook wants to do. They want to take this device and get the fuck rid of it. They just want to give you some glasses that they can convince you to wear always.
And as someone
they don't want you to take them off.
Yeah, and that's the thing with when it comes to that side of it, that's a little scarier. What I'm getting at is Google's going to create an HMD and AR and kind of do what Google HoloLens. Yeah, it would be
Microsoft.
Called like Google
Microsoft.
I know it's Microsoft.
Yeah, the new ones maybe.
My brain flowed.
Yeah. I fully believe that's where the AR stuff is going, because it's not that difficult to just black out the lenses and you've basically got an HMD analog there, right? So
who made it? I think it was LG made a transparent that they could hit a button and it make it go black and then have the screen. Yeah, that tech. And
there's a few displays like that. Yeah. Sharp has one.
Yep.
And they're using them in store windows and stuff where it's literally a transparent LCD display, and you can varying levels of opacity and brightness.
And if and when we get to the era of this AR HMD kind of hybrid, it's going to make marketing so much easier. Think about it. All we need, what are the things Spot uses to see in the world? What are those called? Spot uses
the LiDAR.
No. They're you actually print them out, paste them to cardboard, and he could see this, and he knows where he is.
The QR codes.
QR codes.
They're not QR. They actually have a name. I cannot remember it. But those will be in place of actual advertisement, and we'll get 3D ads and stuff.
I see what you mean. So you're looking around, and they have those codes printed there, and you're looking there, and then you get the advertisement in your face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
no doubt.
Oh my gosh.
That's exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you can pay a subscription service to not get
level.
You can pay a subscription service to not get the advertisement.
And you're going to get people like me, people like Raven, people like you, Corbin, Crin. We're going to take these headsets and we're going to, okay, how do we mod this? And we're going to be
what can we do with this? Yeah.
And we're going to be the pioneers who go, and we're going to be outside in the real world playing real Pokemon. Like actually pretending to throw a ball.
Oh, you think Nintendo's not going to be all over that shit when the tech's finally there? Come on, look what they've done with Pokemon Go.
I could say
the AR camera features in Pokemon Go, they want it. Nintendo can taste that shit.
I could say this right now. I actually was under NDA during 2016 and 2015, and I got to play an early access build of Pokemon Go. I remember that, and
I was an ingresser.
Ingress here as well. We were playing Pokemon Go. We were playing Pokemon Go when it still was ingress, and it was not that cool.
Build the infrastructure for that bitch.
But it's like we're gonna get to that point where, and I think we're maybe 5 or 6 generations down the line. So generously,
I think it's coming sooner than you think, man.
Really?
I think the tech that Apple and Facebook are getting ready to unleash, think about what's in smartwatches right now. Seriously, guys, we've got Snapdragon processors with 8 gigs of RAM that we can smash into a freaking smartwatch. And like Chunker's saying, Google is getting ready to make their own silicone. Apple is making their own silicone.
Again,
guys, the next era of mobile computing is fucking on the horizon, and it's going to be crazy when it hits.
The future will be very, very interesting. But guys,
I'm excited.
We need to come to an end. So this has been a very, very interesting call, but we are now in for almost 2.5 hours. So it will be tricky for people to pay attention to all of this. So we should
2.5 hour conclusion.
Yeah, we should come to an end. So.
The future of VR is mobile devices. Sorry, guys.
Sadly.
Yeah, and it's about to be streamed.
Oh,
with advertisement where you can pay a subscription. Yes.
I'm gonna say at least for the streaming part, not until the US completely redoes its back end. Maybe in Europe, but not in the US.
Yeah, the internet infrastructure is so bad in rural regions here. There's just no way that tech is going to be prolific here. But the thing is we're 330 million people. There are billions of people who are better connected than us. So whether we have the tech or not is kind of irrelevant at this point, I think.
So there's one last thing that we have on our bullet point list, and that is the FeVR Awards nomination, which is still going on, right? So everybody who hasn't yet, go please to fevr.gg/nominations. Is that the correct link? fevr.gg/
favorite streamers, your favorite games, your favorite content creators, your favorite
awards.
Mod makers.
fevr.gg/awards, or you go to fevr.gg and click awards. So everybody is invited to nominate what Crin just said, favorite game, mod, creator, modder, whatever. We have a lot of questions there, so it takes a little bit of time. You don't have to answer all of them if you don't like. There's always an option to not answer something if you don't have any. But yeah, please take your time and nominate a lot of people, because the FeVR Awards nominations is live, and we want to have some people nominated, right? And who can do that better than our community who's seeing and experiencing all the stuff?
That's right.
So please do that. It's for the entire VR community, indeed. So please spread the word.
Nominate anybody you love, anybody you feel it inspires you, that you love their passion, you love their energy, you think they're cool, you imagine they smell an interesting way. It doesn't matter. If you love them for whatever reason, please nominate. And we are going to have a spectacular award ceremony.
Yes,
and they do not have to be. This is anybody from the greater community. Does not have to be a FeVR team member. So please share the nominations. Go nominate everybody that you can. Make this the biggest show it can possibly be. It'll be freaking amazing.
Yes, Freak, you can nominate Emma for Best Doggo. There's probably something where you can do that. Yeah, right on. So let's conclude this. So Spirit, thank you very much for joining us as a special guest today. You can follow Spiritchunker on all the social channels, which is twitch.tv/Spiritchunker. And now new twitter.com/Spiritchunker. It was before Chunker Spirit, but that's is it both now, or did you rename?
No, it's just it literally is just resolved as Spiritchunker now with a capital C.
Perfect. So. Now we have that. Yeah. So thank you very much for being here and telling us about your insights and about your cool stuff that's going on for live. We are looking forward to see that. Yeah. Also, thank you very much for co-hosting crindash, the Crin Daddy. You can follow him on, that's consistent all over the places, I think, at crindash. twitch.tv/crindash and Twitter @crindash. Thank you very much for co-hosting. It was an honor.
Thank you for having me.
You can, of course, join Team FeVR on Discord, discord.gg/FeVR. discord.gg/FeVR. Visit our homepage, fevr.gg. We have a YouTube channel, which will be probably in the show notes or in the channel link below, because that's too difficult to read out. It's a link with all the characters in there. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed what you heard here. See you all in probably 2 weeks again, if we can make it. Thanks again. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. Yeah. Happy Easter, and until next time.
Don't forget to follow Corbin78 on Twitch, twitch.tv/Corbin78, and I'm Corbin78 on Twitter also. I don't know if you are also on YouTube under the same name. So
yes, I have a very old YouTube account where I was able to get that without any /channel/C whatever. It's indeed youtube.com/Corbin78.
Very nice. Yes, be sure to follow him also.
Thank you.
But yes,
thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everybody watching the live stream. Bye. Bye.